welcome back to another episode of Photo Australia. This episode we continue on with Jim, so this is part 2, so I hope you enjoy.
So is there any wildlife in that part of the world as well, Jim?
Yeah, we'll see bears and
Look at that.
we'll show. I don't know. We got. I don't know. I just did a fox one that's in there. You can see it pop there. That was a red fox. That was shot last weekend. So yeah.
So what's he captured here?
Yeah, that's a red fox. That's a gopher, right?
Oh, gopher. Okay, right.
Gopher.
Right.
And he was not going to let that go. Literally, I'm shooting out the car window, the truck window.
Yeah.
And he did not want to let that go. He wasn't worried about me. And we probably tracked him for a kilometer down the road, me shooting with my 80 by 400 out the window.
Yeah.
And he never looked at me, though. He always looked down, right? I wanted him to look at me with his eyes, but he wouldn't lift his head. So it looks like he hadn't eaten for a while, so I think he didn't want to give up that meal.
So, okay, you had your 80 to 400 lens on. How close would have you roughly been to capture him, even with a big telephoto lens?
I would say 20 feet.
Yep.
This is not cropped much, very little crop on it.
And that's where it's coming to my point. People will buy, big telephoto lenses, which, hey, I've got big telephoto lens. They immediately think that you can be almost half a K away. Well, I should be talking our language, but that you could be a long way away.
That's okay. They're in
Canada.
Canada. So
all right, I'm fine then.
They understand us.
Yep.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Occasionally.
My point is that people think, I can buy a nice long lens to put on my camera. And that means I can get, nature photography, birds and stuff that are a long, long, long way away and end up with a photo, looking like this with huge detail. Well, that doesn't exactly happen. You need to, and they crop in and you lose all that detail when they start cropping in.
That's correct. And the reason I got this shot, it's actually shot at 1250 ISO, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Because again, the light wasn't that great, but because I was so close, and I was getting a good focus on it. The high ISO didn't bother me, right? As you get a little bit of light on it, it actually works pretty well. So
it's fantastic. Yeah. It's sharp through. The biggest thing I always say is that you got to have that eye sharp. If there has to be one spot that has to be sharp with any nature photography, that eye needs to be razor sharp. Here it's great. You've got it sharp right through. Fantastic
he's
detail.
He's in profile, which helps, as you know. So I don't have a lot of depth there. So,
but that's the thing with nature photography is, you do need a nice sharp telephoto lens, but you also need to be very reasonably close to the animal if you're wanting great detail. And you can crop a little bit, but you do not want to be cropping too much, even with a you've got a D850. I also have the D850 as well, which is a high megapixel camera. So you can crop to a certain degree, but if you can fill the frame, and I'm sort of used to, I'm sort of glad my first camera was a D700.
Yeah, I love that camera.
So it does. So
mine's not full of water, Grant.
Yours didn't swim.
No. Oh. But it taught me that, because that was a 12 megapixel camera, so what you'd call a low megapixel, but it was good for the time. It was great low light camera, but it taught me to fill the frame. So every time I photograph something, because I do a fair bit of nature photography, I do everything. I think a lot of photographers do a bit of everything, but I'm sort of known more for my nature or landscape photography. And it taught me that I had to fill the frame. So I had to be very careful how I framed the animal. But when I got it, it would come out beautiful. And now that I've got higher megapixel cameras like the D850, I still got that built into me to fill the frame, be careful when you take the shot. because when you come to process it, it's always that much better.
Yeah. This is only cropped to 13 by 19, and I think I only took off a little, half an inch on either side, so that's how close I was. So.
Yeah, and that's also, you want to give yourself a little bit of room as well, because you can crop in a little bit, and that's fine. And you don't want to go too tight with your shots, because you might accidentally, chop his tail off, or you can end up creating yourself a lot of work if you just go in too tight. But my point is that I see a lot of photography, especially of like little birds, and people have taken a shot and then they've cropped in even over 50%. They go right into almost an 80% or 70 or 80% crop, and you just lose. Unfortunately, you're always going to lose that detail.
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree, Brad.
As Brad brings up another image.
Well, it's sort of like
interesting
this.
That this discussion is really interesting, because Brad does a lot of judging here in the state, Jim, and so he's speaking from one point of view. You're talking from another. I talk from a third point of view, in that I do a fair bit of printing for other people, and I can tell you that when people bring you heavily cropped images of something like this little guy here, that started off as he's a postage stamp in the middle of an A4 page, and they wanted to blow him in and blow him up and go, can you print this? Because I've seen this somewhere on this big print, and you go, no, I can't. It's falling apart on me. The images, you've pushed it too hard. And then you see people go and spend a lot of money on long lenses, and they do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
They've shot it from a mile away, and they bring it to you, oh, well, I've got this really expensive lens, so therefore it should be good. And I go, yes, but hang on, guys. You realise that with that really expensive lens at 600 mil or longer, with extenders, we're getting right out there, that even your heartbeat is having an effect on your end image. So it's not always about that big long lens. It's about how it's used. So,
this is about 10 meters away, this shot that I shot. And I wouldn't go beyond that in order to get a shot like this. Because this still got a lot of detail in the feathers. But you get much past 10 meters like this, even with a long lens, you lose that feather detail, right?
Yeah, and that's an important thing that people need to know, is that you got this big lens sitting on the front of your camera. It doesn't mean that you shoot it from the car park. You've got to be, and it takes a lot of technique to either be sitting in one spot for a long time and hope that the wildlife comes to you, as long as you study where they're going, or being, approaching very carefully and getting shots of little birds like this and getting a profile, then having the light correct. So many times I see these little guys and they've got the sun behind the guy and they're backlit, you can't see their eye, and the bird unfortunately is shadowed. And that so there's a lot of work that goes into getting these guys right with the right light to get that nice, beautiful detail.
There is. But Jim, I'm going to preempt the judge here and say that he probably only scored this a 7, maybe an 8, because he would have wanted you to get the bird to put the tail on the other side of the log.
I hope you're not referring to me.
No. I
don't make those sorts of comments.
No. Judge wouldn't say anything like that, would he?
Well, at the end of the day, we sort of got onto judges again. I think we had a bit of a rant on judges a bit, but at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with your own photography,
that's good.
And it's I think if you do things properly like this, you don't really get that much backlash from the judges in any case.
No. I'm only teasing you.
Yeah, I know you are. Like I said,
as you know, Brad, you can get 10 judges to look at something; they're going to give a separate opinion on it all. So, I do take it as valued lessons every time you listen to a judge, because I think that as long as you're getting positive feedback somewhere, or even if you look at a negative side, if you learn something from it, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah. Jim, well, we're both members of 2 camera clubs here on the Fleurieu Peninsula where we live. And I'm in the habit now, to save work, I put the same block of images in both competitions. I've yet to get 2 lots of scores the same. from the same images being judged a week apart by different judges. In one instance, I've won image of the month with an image, gone to the next meeting, and I've scored, I think, a 7 with the same image. So you go, well, okay, that's interesting. It's just, different people, different views, and that's how it ought to be too.
I do photography for me first, and I do it for the beauty of it and the people I meet. So if somebody wants a print of mine, I'd probably I shouldn't say this. I've given away so many prints, and because I have no problem with somebody hanging in their house. I'm proud of that. I didn't get into this for a business. And if I do, I don't want to work for 45 years and then quit and then put another business into it, right? It's me, it's a hobby only.
That's right. Yep.
And I love this hobby, and I love the people I meet, and so it's very good. This is Iceland, guys. If you wonder where that is, this is Iceland.
Okay. I was looking at it, trying to work it out. What an amazing
2012,
situation.
we went to Iceland. We were there 3 weeks. I recently went back and redid these pictures that I processed back when it was 2012. I wanted to see how different I can process today versus 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And I should have put the side by side to show you, but there is quite a difference in the processing side of how I approached this particular image, or almost a few of them that I redid, right? So
right. So Jim, tell me, on your journey, your learning journey of this, how you think you've changed in your processing, and what tools you've used to get there. By tools, I mean, have you done online courses? Have you gone to local education like TAFE, we call it over here, technical and further education, TAFE? How have you managed this?
That's a great question, because I'm always about learning. I'm not afraid to listen. I've been to a lot of different lectures and well-known people within the photograph industry. I've been to a couple of camps, with people. On the processing side, I've had a lot of help through different people within the photography industry and other hobbyists. And we get together and spend hours sometimes just processing one image and how we would approach it, So I'm kind of a sponge when it comes to other people, and then I'm not afraid to dive into it. I believe I actually, for my software, I use 3 different ones. I don't use one. I catalog in Lightroom, and then I also process after I catalog in Photoshop, and then I use a capture one for my finishing work. And so I've got a certain workflow I use, and I think that's what's changed over the years, that I've decided to use a dedicated workflow. And something I wish I would have done when I started that is so critical is keynoting or keywording your images and knowing how to find them, which I'm still having to go back and spend hours and hours trying to find stuff back in 2007 to 2011 that I didn't keyword, or that I didn't properly store, that I could easily do that now. Everything I put on my site now, if you look at the name, it's got the date on there, stamped on there, and I know exactly when it was taken in the field. And I also keyword everything, so it's easy to find. And so as you get more into it and start making these hundreds of thousands of images, now you got to go locate them at times. So I think some of the biggest things I've learned is to do a better job of storing them and tracking them in the future, right?
That's one thing that I've harped on a few years ago. I did a few Lightroom workshops and whatnot for the Camera Club, and I think the most important thing is, as you hit on it, is having a workflow. And the way that I've sort of taught to people is, if you've got a workflow and it's working, I don't want to change that workflow. I think a lot of instructors, you know, they come up with their own workflow and they say that's the only way that you can do it is my way.
Oh God, Brad! You know that I could tell you, you can't process two pictures the same in two different software. If you can, you're good. So no, there's so many ways. Even in Photoshop, there's probably 10 ways to do the same thing. So
exactly.
And so you just gotta get to a workflow you're used to. They all work if you get it. Where people, I think, make a mistake when they get into photography is they get 20 different softwares and try to figure out how to do it out of 20 different ways. And so the newest thing is the best thing. You want to get better at something, find a workflow and stay with it, right? And
exactly.
work with that software. And that's where you're going to improve your photography. You'll take it to the next limit. And as you know, most people are pretty good at composing a photo, but the finishing side is so critical, Brad.
It's odd. And our actual camera club has come a long way since, you know, when I first joined. And that's through, you know, a lot of different people helping out. But that was the thing that used to frustrate me is I'd see other people's photographs and they're fantastically like composed, great photo, but it was just the processing that let them down. And since then, our camera club's certainly changed a lot on learning. I'm still learning. I became a judge just to learn. Whether people listen to me or not doesn't worry me as much. It doesn't bother me because I'm actually looking at other people's photography to learn and improve myself. So that was the only reason why I became a judge in the first place. Because I wanted to see what was further afield than just my own camera club. But you're dead on with that. It's taking that next step from just capturing it with your camera is to actually process it correctly after doing that. It just catapults the photograph from being a mid-level to, you know, straight up there with some of the best.
This fall, believe it or not, the wind was blowing so hard we could hardly stand up.
I could believe it. It's a windy place.
You were worried about getting blown over, so you literally had to go down on your almost floors to walk. It was that windy, right? So we had to go up there. So
I remember catching a lady at Iceland that you probably seen it when people start to stagger with the wind. We were up on a cliff top similar to this, and she had her camera bag on. You know, you could almost lean back in the wind. It was that strong. And a lot of us, we went down on our knees. But the wind hit her and she started doing the stagger towards the cliff edge. I thought, holy hell. So I jumped up, and I'm a pretty big, heavy guy, which is an advantage in some of these areas. But I had to quickly grab her and pull her back down because I'd hate to know what would have happened or could have happened.
Well, on this trip, we had to pull over twice because the wind we had a camper, a big camper. We had to turn it into the wind, but the whole highway had done that. Like, that's how windy it was. You had seen about 20 cars pull over, turned into the wind, because if not, it would have hit the camper and gone over. And and I've got some video of it, and if you just listen to the video and see the grasses, that you could tell how much it was crazy, right?
Yeah, I believe it.
No, that's a beautiful shot, Jim. Beautifully processed. And I think the thing out of this little part of the conversation is also that learning process never stops, does it? It really only picks up momentum as you go forward.
Oh, I'm 10% down the rabbit hole, guys.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, and I'm gonna. Yeah, I know.
Absolutely adore that.
Oh, there's a lot here to like. And I'm gonna probably sound a bit rude here, which can be quite common for me. I think it's important for some of our.
Be rude, Brad?
Well, I think it's important for some of our older photographers. There's the rude part.
Okay.
The elders of our craft. But no, I think it's important that, and it's something that I personally have tried to push in our own camera club. I hope it's working. Is some of our older, more experienced photographers share their experiences and their how they approach things with photography, you know, giving tips and helping some of the new people coming into photography. I started in 2012, and I hate to know how many workshops and lecturers I've gone to. I still do. I'm still learning, still an amateur, and I think I'll be still learning even to the day that I drop a camera, which will be a long, long, long time, I hope. But I think it's important that we share. When I first joined the camera club, everybody was quiet. Nobody talked. I'd ask. I was very wet behind the ears, and I'd ask, "Oh, how'd you do this?"
What?
Oh, well, you know,
share my secret.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I got a lot of that. Oh, well, you know, I got up in the morning and went out there and I took a photograph. And I thought, well, how'd you take the photograph? Oh, you know, you just go there, point and shoot and take it. Well, they were holding on to their little so-called secrets. And I found it hard. I had to, like I said, I had to end up going and trying to get as much information and learn off of as many people as I can. And like I said, still am. Yeah, I think it's important that, you know, the people who've had a good career and a long career in photography, that they do help out the new people and pass that information on. You know, whether it be some mistakes that they've done. I've done plenty of mistakes myself, and say, I really stuffed up this shot. Because quite often you always see the best of someone's work, but they'll never show you some of the worst. And say, look, I learned from this because I stuffed this up.
Yeah, I want to make Grant feel good right now. If you go to the top one on the left there's a sunrise that's kind of right there. Yeah.
This one or that one?
Yeah. That shot with my K20, just letting you know.
Okay. Yeah.
I love mood shots like this.
Yeah. That camera, I mean, well, as you say, Jim, there's no bad cameras.
No.
I just wanted, I put that in there purposely so I could tell people that this is 10-year-old technology, maybe 15. This photo was early in the morning, probably 5:30 in the morning, but I processed this probably about 10 times now, and this is my last attempt at doing it, right?
Yeah. Looks cold, Jim.
Yeah.
I bet it was.
Camera doesn't help much, guys. It's all between the ears.
It looks very cold, Jim. That photo.
Well, it's freezing, as you can see. There's frost on the ground. We're probably about, I would say 4 Celsius, right? So.
Okay. I thought it
not too bad.
Colder. No, that's not too bad.
Perfect to put your beer outside.
That's right. Well, that'd be right, Jim. We could keep the
I'm in the water. I'm actually in water boots right up to my chest almost, right? So, so I walked out into the water, right? So
I'm so proud that you did. There's so many that won't take that journey. I'm just laughing because I was in Tasmania and the snow tops were melting into the lake by Cradle Lake. And anyway, one of the guys I was learning from, a pro photographer, he says, "Oh, there's a really good shot if you whip your boots and socks off and walk out into the water." He says, "There's actually a shot down into the water." And everybody just went, "Oh, no, I'm not doing that." And he goes, "Oh." I said, "Well, I guess it's up to me, Darren." So I ripped all my stuff off. Bloody hell, it was cold. And walked in there and took the shot. It wasn't a bad shot, but the thing is with photography is just taking that extra step, and quite often, as long as you be safe when you do these sorts of things.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, a lot of shots like this, you can't just turn up and take the photo. You've got to take the extra effort and look for those shots, and you might have to get down and dirty and get in there. And there might be, if there's people around, they might look at you a bit strange when you do some of this sort of stuff, but it's what can make a shot though.
And it's look, that's just so true. I was doing a mentoring session recently for some high school kids, and one of the questions was from this young lass who wanted to be a photographer. and she was asking about how you got into this and how you did it all. And I said, well, what interests you? And she said, oh, she loves sunsets and whatever. And I said, well, why aren't you taking them now? Oh, well, don't really have the right camera. And I said, no, yes, you do. You have a camera, it's the right camera.
Yeah.
I said, you have a phone? Yeah. I said, so what's the other important part about taking a good sunset photo? She couldn't quite get it. I said, be there, darling.
Yeah.
Be there. Get out of bed in the cold, in the dark, and be there. Learn how to read.
You got to be there an hour before. I mean,
exactly.
You know, I've gone there pitch dark, and so I love the summertime when I'm out there at 4 o'clock in the morning. You're leaving your house, and But I'll tell you, there's nothing better than watching that first light.
Yep.
And I put my camera down sometimes and just watched it.
Yes.
And, crazy.
It's funny, and Grant will know where I'm coming from. We the last trip to America, when I was there, you've been over there since, but we were photographing the canyon, and there was a comment thrown past. These photographers, all they're doing is just photographing, not taking in the moment at all. And Grant and I sort of looked at each other and sort of laughed a bit, because we talk about it a lot, that you get there real early, you put the time in. We're not just rushing in, take photo, rush out. You do stop, and I think it's very important anyway, and I've said it a few times, is stop and take in the moment. Take a couple of shots and whatnot, but stop and soak it in, because for yourself, it's a great experience, because when you go back and look at this photo, you're emotionally attached for your own self of taking that photo. So you'd remember being there, you remember what you did, you remember the moment of you being there and that morning.
Yep, how it sounded, or the sound of silence, all that sort of stuff. It's if you can capture that in your image and portray that into your image to the viewer, then you have succeeded.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree, guys.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
Yep.
All right, well, we might wrap this up.
Actually, we won't. No, we won't quite yet. Can we just go back to the other shots here for a second? Not overruling Brad here, but I am.
I gotta say, you're doing just that.
I'm the senior partner here, so just pull up one of the coyote.
Yep. What angle do you want?
Whatever. Well, he's a poser, isn't he? Hey, Jim, I am really impressed with this, and I'm just wondering, going forward.
Have a look at some of these shots.
Yeah, just drag up any one of those.
All right.
I'm just wondering, going forward, that if we ever return to the days of open and free travel, and yes, you are coming over here, and Dave has been spoken to in no uncertain terms about not turning up.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys could be such a fabulous resource in putting together another workshop trip for us to put a few guys together and come back and see you guys.
I'd be more than happy to do that, and especially if you look through some of my work, and if somebody wants to go a particular area, I would be more than happy to do that. You know that, Grant.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at this, and I'm getting really excited about travelling again, even though we can't right now. But hey, mate, I think we should look at this, Brad. I think we should really think about this seriously. We've talked about the Northern Lights. Brad loves his bears and whatever, so if we could find him
I love nature,
a really cranky grizzly bear, that'd be really good. Because we could all use the long lenses from the high hill, and we can send Brad down after the grizzly, so we can get the action shots.
I do have a series on grizzly bears, like a folder back in the if you look back on just grizzly bears. So
okay. Well, so Jim, let's keep this alive. Thank you ever so much for agreeing to join us.
Bottom
left.
Yep. Well, so your website is Images by Jim Camozzi. Is that pronounced right?
Yeah.
Yep, .com. I will leave a link in the description below if you would like to visit his website. Please do. Have a look at his work. It's quite stunning. And I know that I'll be certainly looking through these photos for quite some time, I think.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's just amazing.
So, Jim, where were these taken?
These are northern BC. So this is about, from my place, about a 10-hour drive for where I live.
Okay.
We go there every fall. This is shot when the salmon run, so late September, kind of.
So this is the shot. That's the shot that I see with Brad in the front of the shot with the bear coming at him. I think that'd be a good shot. Yep, that'd be a good shot. So,
yeah, I don't think so, Grant. What, in a salmon suit? Jeez.
Hey, Jim. Thanks, mate. This has been great. We would love to do it again, and we'll get Mark and Dave on board as well. And just to close off on, can we go back to your home screen, hop out of Jim's website altogether, and bring up one of those other images?
Oh, okay. Yep. Hang on.
I sent you. So just to go back to the very beginning, take one on the right. To go back to the very beginning. There we go.
He hasn't seen it yet.
Okay.
I've got to just share the screen. There
So
we go.
on that note, buddy, catch you soon. See ya.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Love it, buddy. Love it.
So with that, we'll call this episode there. Probably going to be a two-parter for the length of time, Grant.
I think so.
But if you like this episode, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do hit that subscribe button so you can see our future videos. And with that, we'll see you in the next episode. And thank you, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks,
Stay safe,
Jim.
guys.
See ya.
See ya.